we are going to take a deep dive into politics. Are you ready for spring? Call Guaranteed Industries to learn about their energy-efficient Can-Air heat pumps and air conditioning systems, serving you since 1957. Contact Guaranteed Industries at 514-342-3400. Welcoming Scott Reid, CTV political analyst, former advisor to Prime Minister Paul Martin. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing pretty well, despite the weather. We were talking about earlier about how everyone thought the morning rush hour would be the challenging part of the day, but I think it's going to turn out to be this rush hour and into the evening until the freezing rain tapers off around 8 or 9. But that's here in Montreal. Let's talk about what's going on Parliament Hill. We had an NDPer cross the floor last evening to the Liberals. What's your take on this, Scott? Obviously, one seat closer to a majority for the Carney Liberals.
It's more or less actually the majority. It's not only the majority; it's the extra seat the Carney really needs if he wants to be comfortable. So this is politically, this is an earthquake. This is a big event, I think, a really, really significant event, because there's 3 pending by-elections. Unless something strange happens, even in Terrebonne, you got to believe with the polling numbers that Carney has right now, the Liberals are going to win all 3 of those ridings. That would mean he would have a 2-seat majority. With a 2-seat majority, you don't have to worry. I don't want to bore, the pants off people, but you don't have to worry about who the speaker is and who the speaker isn't. You can actually win confidence votes in the House of Commons. You can also direct committees and what the committee composition is. So you can control all of it in the House of Commons, and you're not in jeopardy. Now, you lose a couple seats, then you're back in jeopardy. But we're in a situation where the Prime Minister could, by 1 month from now, be sitting with a 2-seat majority and be in control. And we're not going to have an election for 3 years.
I actually think a lot of Canadians would welcome the no election for 3 years thing, especially at this time when we have a lot going on outside our borders that we are preoccupied by. So I don't know if all that many Canadians would want to go to the polls again. Talk to us about the announcement from the Public Safety Ministry today. $10 million going to Canada's Jewish community. And this is after a string of incidents, including gunfire directed at synagogues in the Toronto area.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, if you live in Toronto, I live in Toronto. And so I'm driving my son home from hockey practice the other day, and an alert comes up on my phone. And literally there are police outside of a synagogue that we're driving past. So we're talking like 5 minutes away from my home, and shots are fired at the synagogue. And you see these events, you get 2 synagogues being shot at, you get the U.S. consulate being shot at. We don't know if those things are connected. You don't want to rush to judgment, but there's been violence directed at the Jewish community. There's been assaults in apartment buildings. There's been all sorts of violent protests and threats. And so I think it makes sense for the federal government to say, actually, we're going to dedicate some resources. We're going to do something about this. But, ultimately, it's going to come down to, are we going to put some serious money behind making certain that there are patrols? Because I just don't think there's any answer other than deterrence. So you have to know if you're going to roll up on a synagogue, whether you're doing it on a whim or whether you're doing it out of determined, unshakable hate, that if you are threatening, if you are violent, you're going to be spotted by the police and you're going to have to suffer the consequences. And that takes money, man. And so this isn't a ton of money, but it's some money, and it's a step in the right direction, I think.
Turning to the provincial scene, Marwa Rizki is talking a little bit now about her expulsion from the Provincial Liberal caucus, the way it was handled, particularly by Pablo Rodriguez. She's going to be sitting out the rest of her term as an independent. I think a lot of her fans are quite angry she wasn't taken back into caucus after Pablo Rodriguez left. What is she saying that is new, Scott?
Not much. She's just kind of whining and saying, like I'm feeling kind of like a victim here. This isn't how I wanted my political career to end. That's her big sort of headline. Then she doesn't go into any details. But there are serious questions to be asked about her and her judgment and what exactly occurred here. And, can you imagine a person who has more justification for being upset than Pablo Rodriguez? He's the leader of the party. This scandal breaks. There's unrelenting pressure on him for days and days and days. And there's all this reports of all these texts and emails. And so he steps down. And, she's at the middle of it. She triggered the whole thing. And now, investigations say, yeah, we can't even determine the veracity of those texts and emails. They might have been AI generated. So his career was just burned to an ash. And, we don't know why. We don't know what the play was. For some reason, he put his faith in her. For some reason, she decided to fire her chief of staff. For some reason, a bunch of stuff started getting fired around that resulted in Rodriguez having no option but to resign. So I actually wish you would answer some questions. I wish you would answer some questions, not like questions are such as, are you the world's biggest victim, but rather, what the hell went on here and what role did you play? And, no one's really going to care. We'll move on. We'll go to the next election, and Miard maybe will do well. Maybe the Péquistes will win. Who knows? It looks like, the CAQ is finished. But she played a major role in determining who the next premier will or won't be. And she doesn't have squat to say about it. And I think there's a lot of important questions to go.
Well, I agree there are a lot of questions, but I think, Scott, her hands are tied because we may yet see a conclusion about ethical rules being broken. We could yet see, heaven forbid, criminal charges. And I think that's why she can't say anything, is because all of this is still very hush-hush being investigated. There's, they're looking into it. My sympathy is actually with Marwa Rizki. I think the mistake that Pablo Rodriguez made is parachuting in someone that he had worked with in Ottawa and thinking it was going to be an easy transplant into the National Assembly and miscalculating and then standing by her when things got dicey.
Yeah, I don't think we agree. I mean, look, I think that's a reasonable question about the judgment of bringing somebody else in. But what role did Marwa play? Why did Marwa fire? Why did Marwa say, I'm going to accept to be the leader under Pablo, and then I'm going to just wander off, fire this person? And you say her hands are tied, there's an investigation. Yes, there's important ethical questions. Is it really a criminal investigation? I don't think so. The police never indicate when they're done running things down. But I think this is literally more smoke. There's less to this than meets the eye. And I'd like to know why she made the judgment she did. I'm not sympathetic toward her. I think that she was somebody. I'll tell you what my number one criticism of Rodriguez is. He should not have put his trust in her.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. All right. I'll take that, Scott. I'll take it under advisement, as they say.
You don't have to agree with me. I'm just giving you a take, man. I've known Pablo since we were 19 years old, so I might have a point of view on this issue. So.
Yeah, I get it. And I do think there were issues of loyalty at play here. I do think that played into it, and there were feelings of betrayal probably on both sides. So you're probably right about that. Scott Reid, thank you very much.
Introducing Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
Join me for an insider look on a wild ride through 40 years of global rock and roll.
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Or ask your smart speaker to play Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio.
Who's ready to rock?
Kids wanna rock.